welcome everybody this evening, this afternoon, this morning to the second of our ICE sponsored webinars. We've got Jane who's sort of running the technology. Thank you, Jane. And so if you've got any hiccups, you can put your hand up or send a comment to Jane, and she'll take it from there. I understand we've got 61 attendees from 17 institutions in 11 countries participating this evening, so that's fantastic. And we've got an excellent panel of 4 speakers who are each going to speak for about 5 or 6 minutes to just outline their thoughts on our topic for this evening, which is alternative approaches to teaching delivery under COVID-19. And then when our presenters all finish, we will then open up for Q&A discussions. So I'll introduce all of our speakers in one hit, and then we'll move straight into the presentations. So I've got Steve Hood from the STR Share Centre. Steve's currently are you in Memphis, Steve?
Nashville, close.
Nashville, sorry, Nashville. Okay. So, oh yes, very close. Sorry. Okay, we've got Peter Russell from the Russell Partnership Technology, London. Peter.
London, yes, yeah.
Terrific. Okay, thank you. We've got Stephen Pratt from the University of South Pacific, Fiji. Stephen.
Yeah, bula everybody.
Bula. Yes, evening, very late evening for you. And we've got Clive Taylor from the Swiss Education Group, who is, judging by that background, is somewhere in Canton Valais.
Yeah, the picture is actually Canton Vaud. It's the Lake of Geneva, but I am actually in Canton Valais. Yes, I'm in Montana at the moment.
All right, terrific. Okay, well, look, welcome to our to everybody, and thank you to our 4 presenters for joining us. So let's get into it. Steve Hood, we'll open with you, please.
Awesome, great. And Jane's going to share slides for us, I think, and put up a couple slides.
Let me share screen.
Great to be with everybody today, and I just wanted to share a couple quick things that how we're working with schools during the current situation. Jane, if you go to the next slide. One of the big ways we're helping, I'll talk about online training in a minute, but one of the big ways we're working with schools right now is providing data. Now keep in mind, this is what we normally do, but at this point in time, it's even more relevant. The data that we provide is for 3 purposes: research, student projects, and for use in the classroom. Keep in mind that the data that STR gets is monthly data, but it is also daily data, as current as last week. So for anything that you need anywhere in the world, we can get you data as of last Saturday, so you can see exactly what's happening in your area of the world or with a specific group of hotels as of last Saturday. Keeping in mind, I described the data here a little bit, all areas of the world, all different types of sets of hotels. But a lot of schools are going back and getting data on prior recoveries and economic cycles. They're thinking about, how do we help industry? Remember, segmented data is available, so you can look at things like group and transient, luxury versus non-luxury, resort hotels. P&L data is available. SDR has a lot of additional data, things like hotel closures, cancellations, forward booking, travel intention. That's one of the good signs. And we work with tourism economics, so we can bring you indirectly data from them as well. Samples of the type of data that's available, and a great way to stay on top of the current circumstances is our Hotel News STR website there. That's our COVID-19 landing page. So you'll see webinars. We're doing webinars on every area of the world. Vanjie, I think a webinar is coming up on the Philippines, and so you can actually see those. You can listen to them ahead of time, but once they've taken place, that you can listen to the recorded version. Craig and I talked a little bit about the idea of possibly doing a industry update webinar in the future where we can show you what's going on. Some really good science coming out of China right now that we would be glad to share with you, and lots of and some bright spots and some lessons to learn, you know, as far as the industry is concerned. So we'll talk more about that in an upcoming webinar, hopefully. Next slide, please, Jane. So a lot of data, and that gives you a lot of possibilities. I won't take too much time to go through there, but obviously there are research opportunities. Or the industry right now, you know, I just was on a meeting with you know, strategic people from Hilton and Marriott, and they're thinking recovery scenarios. What could they be? V, is it going to be a V? Is it going to be a W? What's it going to look like? Obviously, you can correlate our data with third-party data when it comes to research. One of the people from the big hotel company said search data is going to be really critical. Once people start searching, you know, they usually travel 3 months after, and so they're really some of these big companies are looking at that kind of thing. What a great research opportunity there, and so lots of things that you can do with the data. Career guidance, you know. You think about it. You guys have graduates coming out in May and June. What type of hotels are going to be bouncing back first in the current situation? We can help with some really good career guidance. What are the bright spots? What are some reasons for optimism? Travel intention is really high. So a lot of possibilities as far as data is concerned. Please let us know how we can help when it comes to data. We'll be glad to provide that for you. Next slide. One of the things we've done in light of the current circumstances is most of you are familiar with our certification in hotel industry analytics certification. We launched it in 2012, been obtained by nearly 20,000 students, mainly students, but also some professors and industry professionals. We have made it possible for a school to deliver the CHIA in a totally online format. So it would be possible for a professor who's never done this before to pull this off and to do it successfully. So please let us know if we can help you with that. In addition to that, we've also done the very same thing for our CATA. The CATA stands for Certification in Advanced Hospitality and Tourism Analytics. We launched it last year. It builds upon the CHIA and introduces students to the four most popular types of hospitality and tourism research projects. In that training, they do a market study and event impact analysis, pretty timely. One school was doing it all on COVID-19, but they're picking different cities around the world. They also do an economic analysis and they do a feasibility study. They learn the step-by-step instructions on how to do these. The training has case scenarios and template built in there, and that training, if the professor wants to, involves not just an exam, but a project that the students complete. So we'd be glad to talk to you more about that. Contact myself or contact Dwayne. Most of you know Dwayne, and we'll be more than glad to help you get that off the ground. As we said, we're making it possible for you to do that totally online, and even if you haven't done it before, we're making it simple enough to do that. So we'll be doing sort of an online train-the-trainer session for the CATA later this month. Let us know if you'd like more information. Obviously, both of those certifications have a designation students can put on their business card and resume to really help them stand out. Let us know if you need testimonials. Next slide, almost done. One of the things we're talking to about schools a lot is some of the other training programs that we have made available that we're making available, and the possibility of bringing them online. So in more of a brainstorming situation. If you would like to talk more about some of these other training programs, please let me know. We do have a hot topics in hospitality and tourism. Right now, that's a PowerPoint that we give to you in 250 slides. It'd be very easy for us to record a video to go along with that. We have a global survey of the hotel industry, and that basically introduces students it introduces students to what the hotel industry looks like in every part of the world, because we know that Clive students are going to understand the hotel industry in Switzerland, but they may not have a clue what it looks like in Mideast and Africa or Asia or the America or Latin America. And so that's another one. Courses under construction, visualizing hospitality and tourism data with Tableau, accounting hands-on, and then we're working with the RevMe group to create that student certification in revenue management. That'll be rolling out real soon too. So that's just a few ways we help. Please let me know if we can do anything in addition to that, or if you want to chat or talk about any of those training programs. Thanks.
Terrific. Thank you very much for that, Steve. Again, we'll hold questions for the Q&A at the end. So we'll roll straight on to Peter Russell in London, please, Peter.
Hey, hi there, everyone. Thanks for that presentation, Steve. In a similar way, things with us are somewhat business as usual and somewhat very unusual. A lot of you will already know Russell Partnership and some of our programs and things that we do. So again, like Steve, I just want to give you a little bit of information of things that we've been doing to further support our partners, and things that those of you who we don't work with may find useful to think about. One of the big things we've found with the move to online is that obviously there's things that you may have used to do in the classroom that are no longer able to be delivered. Now, using online teaching aids, things like simulations, apps, and any of these other elements can be a great way of overcoming the barrier where you might previously have done lab sessions, you might previously have done visits, where students were doing internships. There's a whole variety of things that obviously at the moment are not going to be able to take place. So bringing things like a simulation in are a great way of doing that. What we've been doing a great deal of is building up our internal LMS and learning management system content. One of the things that people find the hardest when using things like simulations is the onboarding process. So getting students up to speed with how to use the programs and how to get the most from them in terms of all the learning points. This is something we were developing already, but what we've done is we've now released a full learning management system for all of our simulation programs. What that does is it provides students with all of the introduction, all of the onboarding, all of the background that they need to know before going into these simulations. Those links are in the process now of going out to our current partners. And this is going to provide an excellent level of support when teaching online, because of course we deliver in slightly different ways when we're online. For those of you who aren't aware of our core simulation programs that we have, we've got 3 or 4 which are all focused around hotels, asset management, and food and beverage. So our hotel simulation programs place students into the position of being a hotel general manager or revenue manager. They then are tasked with making all of the decisions for the hotel. That can include everything from rates to revenue, advertising, HR, sustainability, investments, finance, all those different elements, the full holistic view of hotel management. We have our asset sim program, which is focused on the asset management side of hotel management. And then we have our food and beverage simulator, which is focused on managing food and beverage operations. One of the key things to say is that obviously all of you will have very different courses, modules, and then there are a lot of different learning aims that you need to address. We work with all of our partners individually to address those things, and everything we do is very customizable. So really, this is a good time to start bringing these things in, and of course, we're here to support through all of that. We have some new programs that we were in the process of launching, and again, this feels like good timing as we're going into this online teaching phase. We've recently launched a revenue management application. This RM app is all focused on displacement. It's focused on revenue rates, how to deal with channels, how to deal with OTAs. Again, the onboarding is through our LMS system. This is a very pick up and go system. So all of the things I'm talking to you about can be very quickly integrated into the classroom. We had a new partner who came on board last week. We had them up and running and teaching within the classroom within 3 days. So there is a very, very quick time period to get these things up and running. Final thing to talk about is we have our Hotel Business Acumen program. Students are still going to be graduating. Students are still building towards going out into the industry. And Steve kind of alluded to this as well. Once we do get back into that, whatever the recovery looks like, whether it's a V or a W, I think what we do know is it's going to be a very competitive marketplace. So the more that students can position themselves in a position of knowledge, the better place they're going to be to step into those roles that they want to do. We've developed a program specifically for that called Hospitality Business Acumen. This is a package of 4 modules which bridges the gap between what students learn in the classroom and what they're going to need to know from a business acumen perspective when they move into industry. This covers essentially Finance 101, how to apply theories to interrogate reports, how to communicate, and then how to partner with owners and business leaders to achieve business goals. It really is a fantastic course. We've delivered all of these programs. So the Business Acumen program and all of the other programs I've mentioned, we partner with industry to deliver these exact same programs. So all of the students who would gain access to these programs are getting a head start on what people in the industry are already doing. Final thing to say is that we're not using this as a company as a chance to make profit. We are very much closing down our operations to be a very small core, so that we can continue to support the education providers such as yourself. We are providing substantial discounts through our education foundation for anyone who wants to take on board these programs. So don't be thinking that these are going to be huge costs, that we're doing all we can to make sure we get people up and running and supported during this very difficult time. Final thing from me, obviously my main focus is on simulations and the things that we deliver as a company, but we do have a great level of knowledge within the business about not only our simulations, but the other simulations in the marketplace and the other learning apps and resources that are out there. So if you've got any questions on things like that that you'd like to integrate in the classroom, please do connect with me. I'll be really happy to help you and answer any questions you've got. If our programs are a good fit for you, then that's fantastic. I'll support on that. If I feel there's something better for you out there, then I'll send you that direction as well and make the connection for you. So just please know that I'm here to support, and simulations could be a great thing to bring into the classroom during this time. And obviously any questions during the Q&A, we'll be happy to answer, or do connect with me after this, and I'll be happy to support you. Thanks very much. That's all.
Terrific. Thank you. Thanks very much, Peter. I should mention very quickly that both Peter and Steve will be co-convening a special webinar on the 23rd. So a more detailed and more focused explication on your various resources and systems is scheduled for the 23rd. So for those of you who really want to know a little bit more or a lot more about the machinations and the workings of their systems, then pencil in the 23rd. Okay, so we've had a very strong technological perspective. Now let's roll across and hear from a more sort of robust, if I can use that word, Steve Pratt, to talk to us about your experiences.
All right. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Paul. Just a bit of background. So the University of the South Pacific, we're a 12-member owned university. So the main campus is in Fiji, but we have, if you can name a Pacific Island country, then we probably have a campus there. So in that respect, we've been doing online teaching and distance learning for, well, 10, 15 years. So we've been fortunate, I guess, to have some of that experience. So we offer, 3 undergraduate courses, a double major, tourism and whatever, tourism and hospitality bachelor's, and a hotel management program. So, and then we have, of course, postgraduate diploma. And so for that course, that's already been run online. We have certain students in Kiribati and students working in the industry that can't attend classes. So we've been using Zoom has been working well for them to join the class. So in that sense, we've already been offering these courses face-to-face, we call blended or online, and also in print mode. So for those students without the internet at all. So luckily, we've already had these materials developed, and we're just encouraging staff and students to use whatever technology that they already use. So it could be our learning management system is Moodle, and but they can still do group work, we can use, but they're still doing presentations, so they can using, let's say, PowerPoint, and you can use the narration, which captures the audio, and they save it as a file like any other file, and they send it through and get evaluated on their presentation. And in terms of their group chats, Facebook is ubiquitous here, so they're forming groups on Facebook Messenger. Some staff have been using Big Blue Button to record some of their lectures as well. So we have synchronous lectures. So if our lecture time was at 10 o'clock on a Monday, then that's when students with internet connection can get on and listen to the lecture. We've also been conscious to convert some of our assessment to formative rather than summative. Given that students have access to the internet and can easily search up, sort of fairly descriptive or sort of knowledge, simple knowledge-based answer, then, we want to encourage them to use the internet, but we need to set some tasks that apply that knowledge. It could be to the Pacific or just more in general. So because we recognise they can easily find a sort of answer online. So getting staff colleagues to think about the application, I guess, is been important. And then fortunately, again, as Jane maybe alluded to, some of you heard, there's always things going wrong in the Pacific. So we've just had a Category 5 cyclone or tropical cyclone come through Vanuatu and Solomon Islands and near Fiji, and now it's in Tonga. So when this is the case, of course, the campus is shut, and so when we know it's on the way, we'll get students to, if they don't have internet connection, that will get them to go to the campus with their external drive or the USB stick and get the materials, their PDFs or their PowerPoints, and load it up themselves, so they can still work offline, at least for a little bit of the time, or intermittently if there's limited access to the internet. So similarly, when we knew that countries were announcing their shutdown due to COVID, then we encourage students that wouldn't have as readily available internet or more costly internet to go and get the materials, a copy of their own materials for so they can still they're not lagging too far behind. So just quickly, that was some of the small things that we've been we've been doing to facilitate this learning, this online learning culture.
Terrific. Thank you very much for that, Steve. I'm sure there's some very interesting questions that are coming up. In fact, I can see a couple already. But as we agreed, we'll roll on. So, Clive Taylor, can I ask you to offer some thoughts, please?
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. In the background, you can see I'm in Switzerland by Lake Geneva, and in the forefront is one of our campus locations. It's the Co-Palace, which is a luxury hotel built originally in 1902. A little bit of background about my role and my business, my company. We are the Swiss Education Group. We have students coming from over 100 different nationalities from around the world. We have 6 campus locations here in Switzerland. And before the crisis, all of our classes were being undertaken in a physical location, and we didn't have any virtual learning environment classes taking place as such at that time. So my situation is a little bit different in that I have 2 roles. I wear 2 hats, one as the Director of Business Development for the group, but also I have been working with the SHMS campus for the last 18 months as a visiting lecturer, and I've been lecturing on leadership modules. So today I'd like to offer some thoughts on alternative approaches to teaching delivery, clearly under the crisis that we're faced with. I'd like to quote Albert Einstein first of all. Einstein once said, "In the midst of every crisis lies great opportunity." And I have to say that the company that I work for, the schools that I work with, and I know that it's happening across the world in the industry as well, a lot of people are grasping this as an opportunity. Some it's more difficult for, clearly, but for us, that was our mantra right from the beginning. So working with the academic deans from a business point of view, we very quickly switched our operation from full physical to full VLE. Students were given the option of remaining on the campus when the government said that, you know, face-to-face teaching had to stop. Approximately 50% left and went back home, and 50% remained. So we have students in our campuses studying from their bedrooms, and we also have students studying obviously all over the world. So in my role, and I want to take it from a teaching role now, I'm going to look at four parts, apps and simulations used, specific changes in our response and how my teaching changed, things that have gone well, and some of the challenges. So if I start with the apps and simulations, we basically use the Moodle, very interactive. We underpin that with Zoom and also Microsoft Teams. And within that, we use various other apps and different platforms to make it very interactive with the students in the classroom. I have a leadership module that I teach. I have 60 students on my module from all over the world, and 50% of them, as I mentioned, are still with us in Switzerland, and 50% around the world. I found it really interesting to use simulations because, and one simulation I want to talk about is the Everest simulation, which is has been developed by Harvard Business Publishing. I know that Peter has mentioned some of his technological simulations, and I know that it's a similar approach. I found it very interesting because I have compared the work of the students when they were in physical classes to when they have been working remotely. And it's very interesting that their scores, basically they work in groups of 5, their task is to climb Everest, and they get weather information, they get health information, they get all sorts of other information, and they have to take decisions. And basically it's about leadership decisions, it's about team dynamics, it's about sharing of information, asymmetrical information, and various confusion in decision taking. So it was very interesting to note that they scored higher when they were working remotely. I had a group score 94% of successful goals achieved, which is incredible. The highest that we'd had in the classroom was a 78% from one of the groups. So that was really interesting to see how a simulation worked in the real world. Working on Zoom, it's great to use chat rooms, and it's great to use the breakout rooms. So basically we use the breakout rooms, the students go into the groups, I visit the different groups in the same way that I would do in the classroom. It's very interactive, and the students, the feedback we receive from the students is very, very positive. So they're the things that have gone very well. In terms of challenges, obviously challenges like time zones, this is a challenge. Sometimes we have issues with our students in China when we're doing the Harvard business simulation. Sometimes with it being a US site, it's blocked and they can't access the site. Obviously our IT people look at getting around that problem with VPNs and various things like this, but they are some of the challenges. And the other challenge is really to keep them engaged and keep them focused. It takes me back to my teaching practice where we were taught, lesson plans and flow of lessons. Yes, we do that. We make sure that every 10 to 15 minutes something different is happening. We're doing a poll, we're answering in chat, we're sharing a screen. And by doing all of these things, using technology, I have seen the student develop other skills, both, you know, business skills and actually interpersonal skills. So for me, it's been a very, very uplifting experience. It's been a very nourishing experience educationally. And I believe that the students have got a great deal out of this, this opportunity that we've been faced with. And that will inform our practice moving forward. We'll look in more detail as a group now about our blended learning and about the synergies with what we can do in the classroom and obviously virtually as well. And we'll build on that. So that's just a little bit of an insight from me, and happy to answer any questions later. Thank you very much indeed.
Terrific. Thank you very much for that, Clive. It's yeah, a fascinating situation. Now we've had a couple of questions, and I think they're going to be largely directed in the first instance to Steve and Peter, and that is a question about whether any of the certifications that you offer have been what's the correct terminology, certified for the, or had them credited for the ECTS. Peter, do you want to start off on that one?
I'll start. Yeah, no, not yet, but absolutely we'll look into that. So as I said, our programs in terms of the online certification programs have been taken by, I think, close to 6,000 people worldwide. So we know that the integrity of those is great, but no, we'll also look into that. I'll hand over to Steve. I'm not sure if the CHIA is certified by that either.
Yeah, I need to double check. I think that we do the CHIA. I think most of you know that we do that jointly with AHLEI, and I believe they have certified that, but I can double check. In addition to that, it's been endorsed by the Institute, the CHIA and the CATA both have been endorsed by the Institute of Hospitality, Pacific Asia Tourism Association, PATA, HFTP, Hospitality Financial Technology Professionals as well, and we're seeking other endorsements as well, just to add credibility, and it's actually more logos when the students actually get that certificate. It has a bunch of logos on the bottom there too.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, Jane, next questions. I've just sort of lost my link there for a moment. Sorry, I'm looking at that. Jane?
Sorry, I was on mute. I've just sent you another one through that came through to Clive, which is answered in the chat box, but it might be interesting to actually answer as a group. Would you like me to read that one out?
Yes, please.
Really interesting comments on your Everest simulations. Would you consider writing that up for a journal research in hospitality management? That was to you, Clive.
Yes, so I've answered in the chat to Erwin. Absolutely, it'd be a pleasure to do something like this, because, you know, sharing of good practice is, for me, central of what we do as educators, and as you know, the ICE is focused on sharing and collaboration. So absolutely, yes.
Terrific, thank you.
We sent you the next questions as well, Paul.
Okay, now that's okay. So we've squared off on the ECTS, and Steve, about the data on the percentage of hotels that have closed operations per country, per continent, and the world. And my understanding, Steve, is, well, your answer is?
Yeah, we have a huge amount of data on that closure situation. This has been unprecedented as well, in terms of the number of hotels that have closed. You know, just in China, I think it was a huge number. Our only so we use that data. Actually, that data is critical, because if you think about it, occupancy now is different. I mean, it's still low in most places of the world, but occupancy is related to the number of opened hotels, not the number of closed hotels. And what we've had to do for our customers, keeping in mind we're serving the hotel industry, we're having to show them occupancy both ways. You know, if all the hotels had been closed, hadn't closed, this is the occupancy. But because they've all closed, this is the occupancy, just so they're not getting false positives in when it comes to looking at performance. So now the only challenge with that is they're very sensitive as far as that closure data, because you say, oh, Marriott has X thousand of closed hotels, that makes stockholders and people sort of nervous. So let me double check to see how, where we are in terms of releasing even just general numbers on that. And but that's a perfect example of all the interesting types of data that are coming out of this. We, for example, we just started launching forward-looking data, and that's becoming incredibly important at a time like this to be able to look ahead. I mean, I was just looking at I'm doing a presentation for iCrete today later, and I was looking at forward booking in Dubai. It's like, geez, that's just a little scary. So anyway, lots of different data coming out of here, and so I'll be glad to share that more in the future.
Oh, sorry, terrific. Thank you for that, Steve. Now, two quick things, just for everybody's interest. I've had a couple of people ask about the different resources. So if you go to the ICE homepage, there's a drop-down box from what we do, and the very first option there is the COVID-19 member support with the online learning resources. And also next to it in the events, if you click on the drop-down box there, you'll get the ICE webinars and the future webinar series. So you can see the advanced schedule of the different webinars that are being programmed as part of this series. So that's just sort of those as part of planning. I do have a question though. Actually, I got a few here, so I'll work through them. Does anybody have experience of operating practical classes, particularly food and beverage, rooms division, maybe even culinary online? Panelists?
Unfortunately, no, not at the moment.
I can jump in on the hotel side of things. I mean, obviously, we've used the simulations to do things that you might have done in the classroom around hotel operations, and in terms of that side of things, and again a little bit in terms of the culinary on the same side. Obviously, it's not exactly the same in terms of the really practical side that you might do on the culinary side. With anything, obviously, within a simulated environment, is always going to be a more focused on the strategy and the theory of it. But yeah, very much so. It's very easy to use the simulations in a live context, and I'm sure Clive's got a similar experience with the Everest simulation that he talked about from a leadership perspective.
My comments.
Thanks, Peter. Sorry, Clive, and then Steve.
Okay.
Yes, so from my point of view, I think what Peter said there was really very, very interesting. One of our schools is a pure culinary school, and that's actually the only school that's not obviously continuing because we didn't have any solutions for the culinary side. I think that's a really opportunity for entrepreneurs out there, people like Peter and Steve and so on, to have a look at how we could do something like that. Because, okay, practical elements of the F&B in particular, but also there's other areas of the operations. The front office as well is very, very practically based, forward operations. And I think that is something that really the business market haven't looked into too much. I think it would be possible to do something, working with our chefs and obviously methodologies, to try and put some simulations together that could actually give a real simulation of a practical element. Of course, there's nothing like the real world, but I think that we could have some useful substitutions in that way. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Clive. Steve?
I was just going to say, yeah, unfortunately, we also don't have anything online for our intern students. So the hotel management, the third year, they're in the industry for the whole year. And the majority of the properties have closed, so the students have returned home, and they're asked to. I mean, they'll have done almost 3 or 4 months, and they can do some of the assessment, part of the reflection, I guess, but that's about all we can do at the moment. So we're still thinking those issues through about students' internship.
Okay, can I just jump back though? In the past, Steve, given that you've got campuses literally all over the ocean, not the countryside, and the technology's not always working for you. How do you cobble together a viable and workable class when you can't rely on the technology, when you've got to work beyond the technology?
Yeah, I mean, that's just difficult. I mentioned earlier, we're lucky that we did have print materials that students could have got. I mean, that doesn't help once the lockdown starts, but if the students are in very remote areas and don't have access to the internet, they did have print. I mean, that's old school, but it's a fact of life in the Pacific that the internet is slow and sometimes expensive. And then, we just try to be as open and as flexible in terms of timing as possible. So for face-to-face students, I'm fairly strict about deadlines. I think timekeeping is quite important for future professionals. But, in times like these, of course, we need to be, if the student obviously has to complete the work at the end of by the end of the semester. But yeah, I think we just have to be flexible and persistent. I guess it's again, there's no silver bullet, but I think those two characteristics are key.
Okay, all right. Thanks for that. And Clive, your experience?
Yeah, I would agree with what Stephen says there. I mean, that is a real challenge. Obviously, we have to work with what we have. I mean, fortunately here in Switzerland, it's very reliable in terms of the internet, and most of the countries around the world where our students are, yes, I mean, it's a sliding scale. Some are excellent, some are okay, and some are challenging. What I would say is that the technologies that are out there, these simulations that Peter's company have developed and Harvard have developed are very robust. So the actual the platform of delivering is very, very good. But the real challenges are with the infrastructure on the internet, and that is just something that you have to have a fallback plan on, because that is going to be challenging for you. And I'm afraid there's no magic wand on that one, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that, Clive. May I ask a little more about this Harvard one that you did? It's online. Is it online synchronous, or is it online possibly downloadable that the students can run offline?
Yeah, it's synchronous. Yeah. So basically, it's happening in real time, and the students obviously are working together in different locations. If you have a look on their website, the Harvard Business Publishing, there's a whole host of opportunities in simulations, very, very interesting, from leadership to marketing to operations.
Love the food truck.
This interesting one on working in global business environments. The iceberg is a very interesting one as well. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's a very, very interesting product that they have. And of course, they've been doing it quite a while now, so they're quite well developed in what they have in terms of simulations. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So we do have this pressing issue, though, that for those of us who have got good, high quality internet access, going online and doing a synchronous simulation is an easy get. But for those colleagues of ours who don't necessarily have the access to the same digital infrastructure, what can they do? What can they do to keep their students engaged and moving forward, that's not necessarily dependent upon a synchronous online simulation? Steve?
Yeah, I mean, we had some, you know, they do have, like I mentioned, we're fortunate, or have been fortunate, when students, I guess, know the situation in their home countries, that at the start of the semester they're able to actually go to the campus. I know that doesn't help once the lockdown is in place, but where they did have access to PDFs before the semester started, and the sort of study guide which leads to a textbook. It's not ideal because things like COVID's not included. It's difficult to keep up with tourism being so developments in tourism happening so quickly. The printed material often goes out of date quite quickly. But yeah, that's like I said, students bringing their memory sticks in before things go wrong. But in one sense, the internet, the students know the internet's or they know their situation. So those with poor internet or expensive internet do make plans ahead of time. But that like I said, that doesn't help really once these lockdowns are in place.
Okay. Look, I might just ask Jane to help us with a bit of administration here. I'm just curious to see, is there anybody online who has responded to this challenge by doing something like, I don't know, dumping everything down onto either a USB stick or even a CD platter and making multiple copies and emailing that out to their students? Jane, I don't know how we do that as a poll or a quiz, or just invite people to put their hands up and say something. But I'm just curious to see if there's anybody who's either done it or contemplated it, investigated it, and worked out that it's too hard or too expensive. But I'm just curious to see what the lay of the land is there.
Sorry, I just want to add, we do actually have sticks and CDs, or we used to in the past few years. The other problem in the Pacific is the postal service is terrible. So even if you send it out, it's often difficult and it takes a long time to get to where it's supposed to go. So anyway, helpful, but
okay.
Can I come in on that, Paul, while Jane's putting the poll together?
Yes, please.
Sorry, I've just launched that, and it's a very quick question as opposed to a long one. So if anyone needs clarification, just raise your hand. Over to you, Peter.
Awesome, thanks. I think the key thing to say on the technology is that the technology is always going to be impactful. And I think obviously one of the key things of teaching online is trying to make sure that the technology doesn't become the factor. It's the way of getting the content over. First thing to say is, as a company, everything that we create to be delivered at very low bandwidth. So obviously it's all focused on the learning aims, so it does try to reduce that, because obviously some things can be very, very high bandwidth. Video conferencing, for example, like we're all doing now, is very high bandwidth. All the programs that we do are very low bandwidth, and everything is done in a basis of, if you lose connection, you can just resume. So obviously you don't lose all your work, you're able to save things as you go and you resume. Of course, that's irritating, but it's a way of going forwards. I think the ways that the other options that we've suggested to people all the time is always having a backup plan. So when you're delivering something in an online context, like a simulation, like an app, it's a case of going, if this doesn't work, if this breaks, if the internet goes down, what are we going to do instead? So it's a case of going, well, if we can't do this, then we're going to have a paper-based case study that we're going to do instead. I think it's worth saying now, because I didn't know if we'd get any questions on this, but another thing I wanted to suggest to people is that with this growth of online learning, one of the things that we're suggesting to people is the online learning journals, and actually sort of explaining what students are doing as they're going through is getting more and more important. I think this did come up a little bit earlier in terms of saying, well, students can go out and do the research and they can pick up answers very easily when we're not seeing them face to face. But It's really important for students to be sort of recording more what they're learning, why they feel they've learned it, and sort of doing that in a journal context. There's a great program called Seesaw, which is an online learning journal, and that allows students to do that in a very good way. And obviously there's a whole host of other tools and things like that. So yeah, just a little bit back on that one.
Terrific, thank you. Thanks for that. Steve Hood, can I pose a question to you?
Sure.
How much of your material could be downloaded by a professor and an instructor who's got a low bandwidth situation, and drop that onto a PC, and then you know, make multiple copies of that so that can be shot out to the students? Because they don't need to be online to actually do the analysis of the data, do they?
No, it's a good point. Both of our training programs include very big PowerPoints. We always get joked about the size of the PowerPoints. The Chia is I think 300 slides. The Kata is 500 slides. But they really serve sort of as a book, you know. So it would be easy to put that on a USB, make that available, and then let the student basically read the materials. Now, if they do have internet, we have videos for all of those, so that if, you know, for example, and a lot of people have done that. Most all the schools represented here, I think, have offered the Chia. Some of the schools have not offered the Kata. It's more advanced, but we have videos that make that easy, so that even if somebody hasn't done it before, they can basically have the students learn by viewing the video. But if they didn't have access, then all they would have would be the PowerPoints. But the PowerPoints are very comprehensive. What one thing that I thought of in the discussion was, I've been very surprised to see how schools have implemented student projects in the current circumstance, and I thought that might be an interesting thing to throw out, because, you know, I wasn't sure how easy it was going to be for a student group to work on a project, and you know, but they've been great. They each do their own little portion. They bring it back, they combine it, and then they critique everybody else's contribution. And then one of the exercises in the Kata is where they actually present their project, and they're doing that they're doing that via Zoom to their professor. The professor brings in a colleague or two to listen to the presentations, and it's worked seamlessly, just like they were in the classroom. So I don't know how many other people have been finding creative ways to do student projects, but I thought that was interesting.
Okay, thanks for that, Steve. If I can just recap on the two key points there. So the materials that you have are asynchronous, and so even someone with a slow bandwidth could, you know, start a download at I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning during low traffic time, and just let it download over the next half hour or whatever, depending on how slow their bandwidth is. But it does mean that they can get access to the materials even in the slowest bandwidth environment, and if that's not available for every student, at least the professor can do the download and then make multiple copies out over USB sticks or burn a platter or whatever. So I think that's a really significant point for us to pick up on. The other one, if I may, around the idea of projects. As part of this exercise, I've been looking at the Ivy League universities in the US to see what they're doing, and everybody is going to student-based projects, getting the students to work in e-groups of some description, you know, groups of 3 and 4 digitally, and getting them to engage with industry or community groups, often volunteer groups, and then building sort of like an action research project around their engagement with them. So again, I think the idea of people being able to access the STR data, maybe engage with their local tourism association or tourism industry group, and then build an applied research project, an action research project around that. That sounds like it might have some legs as well. Sorry, that's just a bit of editorial from me. Sorry, I'm just. Oh, Jane, have we got results from our poll?
Okay, so I've just shared them. Can you see those?
Yes, yes. Okay, so we've got 6 people who have gone online. Would one of you like to put your hand up and tell us a bit about your experience? Jane, can you press buttons magically to get people to talk?
They just need to
or get
raise
people to
their hand.
heard? Okay.
If they raise their hand, I can then get them to be heard.
Don't be shy. Please, somebody.
Anybody?
Hello.
No, no one has raised.
Okay, I'm going to drop somebody into it. Arthur, would you like to tell us about your experience?
I will let Arthur talk. Arthur has his microphone turned off. Oh, no, it's on. There we go.
Hello, Arthur.
Hi, sir.
Jane, I can barely hear Arthur.
No, Arthur, can you turn up your microphone?
Hello.
Hello, Arthur. Can you turn up your microphone, please?
Hello.
No, not very good connection, unfortunately. Next caller.
Okay. Okay. Look, but okay. Look, let me because Arthur did send us a note. So we actually have some text from him, but I just thought it would be best if we could hear from him in person. But Arthur uses Google Drive to cascade learning materials, especially with very large files. So they're able to send that link to the student. And again, because it's asynchronous, the student can then download the materials during a low traffic time. And Craig, you've mentioned, is it Nicoletta? Nicoletta, would you like to share your experience with us?
2 seconds, I just have to find Nicoletta on there. Allow to talk. Done.
Hronkova?
Just needs to remove, Nicola, you just need to unmute yourself. See if I can do it for you. No, it's not allowing.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes, hi.
Hello, Nicoletta. How are you this evening?
Hi, very good, thank you. I
Excellent.
hope that you can hear me very well.
Yes, we are. Now, can we trouble you to tell us about the way you undertook a practical class online, please?
Yes, I mean, we are actually currently working on that. So we will be rolling it out next week, hopefully, from Sunday onwards.
Mm-hmm.
Because at DCT, which is the Dubai College of Tourism, we actually have the culinary specialization as well. And what we are doing is currently we have our chefs, basically the instructors, creating videos at home. And then the students will be, based on the videos and the instructions, they are going to be producing the dishes at home and then recording it themselves and then again submitting it basically for us for review. So this is a new project that we are currently working on. Hopefully it's going to work out well, and then we can have actually more updates afterwards.
Okay, so can I just go back through that? So the chef instructors are producing material for the students, videos and instructions.
Yes.
And then the students will download those and watch them in their time?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, all right. And do the students then model the teacher's behaviour by watching those videos and using their own equipment at home.
Yes, yes, exactly. So actually we have been assisting them. They have basically received a list of the necessary equipment that they need. And we have been also assisting them whether there is something that we need to provide them with right now. So we have actually done a bit of shopping online as well and have it delivered to them. I mean, the good news is that our students are here in Dubai. They all live in Dubai. So it's much easier because obviously you can't do that if you have students all over the world.
Got it. Yep. Yep. So there. Well, I mean, there is an argument that once it's in the internet, once it's out in the ether, it doesn't matter where it goes. It's just a matter of whether it can be an asynchronous download during low traffic times. Okay. All right. That's very interesting. Now, this is something you've been developing, and you're rolling it out next week.
Yes.
Okay. Well. Jane, can I ask you to make a note so that we can catch up with Nicoletta in a couple of weeks' time to hear all about your experience of this activity, because it sounds very interesting, and I'm very keen to hear about how the students engage with it. And are you thinking about assessment activities around this as well?
Yes, we are basically working on all days. I mean, I don't want to share all the details yet because it's still work in progress. So I think we will basically see probably by the end of next week what are the things that we have to adapt and change as well. But we have also managed to change certain subjects from term 2 to term 3 and so on, so that basically we have changed the theory subjects as much as possible, even before, because for us the lockdown just started recently. So I mean, we have been working on this. We are very keen to basically start doing it, and then I think you will figure out the details only once you actually start doing it in practice.
Sure. Can you tell me what you did with those theory subjects?
We basically we had to do some scheduling changes. So we have changed certain modules because we are working on 3 terms, right? So we are going to be starting term 3 from next week onwards. And while we were still in term 2, we basically changed certain subjects that are theory based to term 3, and then took some of the practical ones to term 2. So it was a very quick change in scheduling exercise for all of us to make sure that while we were still in school that we can complete as much as possible of the theory subjects.
Right. Okay. All right. So that's a combination of scheduling as well as some restructuring of the delivery. And yes, it is all very experimental for many of us at the moment. So thank you very much for sharing that with us, and certainly good luck in the next week. And we look forward to hearing from you in a couple of weeks' time when you're in a position to share your experiences with us.
Yes, sure.
Okay, Jane, have we got any other colleagues who said yes, that they had done something, who may have put their hand up?
I haven't actually got anyone that has put their hand up, and I don't get to see the results of who has said yes and who has said no.
Okay, clearly a design flaw in Zoom that we're going to have to work on. Okay, all right. Look, I'm just trying to go through the list here. I think we've covered the all of those key questions about how do we cope when the bandwidth is not thick or strong, and the difficulties in that. We've had discussion about use of asynchronous communications, and if there's enough warning using postal services and those sorts of things. Certainly we've had a lot of really good thoughts about the online simulations, and particularly the synchronous online simulations, with Peter and Clive's experience with the Harvard publishing. Yes, I quite like the food truck, Clive. It's one of my favourite ones. Okay, and we've got Steve Hood's materials certainly can be delivered in an asynchronous mode to, and in particular can support an very strongly action-oriented, industry-facing student project. Okay, I'm mindful of people's time. I know.
Can I just?
Oh yes,
Paul,
Craig, please jump in.
Yeah, if you don't mind, because I'm just picking up on Nicoletta's point, because I apologies, Nicoletta, for putting your name forward, but as Olivia shared with me that DCT had done or trialed an online class, so that's why I sort of like threw your name in there. I think there's a couple of things that came out of what Nicoletta was saying. One is the immediate reaction of institutions to reschedule classes. I mean, I suspect all participants have got experience of that reaction. Certainly in what I've been hearing from talking to members, they brought forward classes that they can do online and can do simulations for, and of kind of deferred classes that are problematic and are in the too hard at the moment bag, and the practical classes are in that too hard at the moment bag. And that's why I'm really interested in what Nicoletta was saying, because if this carries on to any length of time, we've got to address that problem. We've got to address that issue, because students have got to do what's in the curriculum. The curriculum's there, so in order to complete that, they've got to address these practical classes. So we've got to find some sort of solution for every single class, and that's what I'm really interested in exploring, is dealing with those hard to deal with classes. And it's interesting what Nicoletta said about providing materials for students, because when students come into practical classes, often we expect them to buy their own knife sets, maybe something as basic as their own aprons. So we do expect them to get their materials. So it's not sort of like a million miles away to say, yes, you need the materials, but you just need them at home. And I can imagine this sort of approach being rolled out as more sort of institutes begin to deal with this issue of how we do this. So if I'm not sure if anyone else has got an experience of how they're approaching this, or other classes that are in the quite difficult bag at the moment, but please share with us if you've got experience of how you're dealing with that.
Okay, thanks for that, Craig. Now, John Daly's popped in an interesting question that I'd like to take back to Nicoletta, if I may, Nicoletta. And the question is, how did you get your chef instructors to rise to this challenge? Was there much that you had to do to get them involved and get them engaged?
Very good question. Thank you.
Thank you, John Daly.
Well, I mean, it's quite hard for me to judge because I am not actually one of them, but I'm in touch basically on a daily basis with the instructors. I mean, in a way, it's they are very enthusiastic about this. Obviously, it's a trial and error exercise most of the times, because multiple times they have to retake the videos because the quality is not up to standards. We have provided them with basically various cameras that can focus on different areas then, right? So one is taking the picture from above, from the side, and so on. They have, so with the technology, but since we are all on our own right now, locked in our apartments, they basically have to figure it out themselves most of the times.
Okay, and I suppose the key thing is that they're enthusiastic, but when you say they've got to work it out themselves, have you been able to form amongst them a sort of like a community of practice where they're sort of peer assisting each other, they're sharing their lessons and experiences as they make their videos of themselves for the students?
Yes, of course. I mean, we are a new college, so we are rather small. So basically right now, because in term 3, these are mostly the baking and pastry related classes. So it involves mostly 2 instructors. So we are helping them out with the technology as much as possible, with guidance, basically when they are testing it out. And especially these 2 instructors, they are then communicating on a daily basis together. So that it's basically done in a consistent manner as well, because otherwise it might be quite confusing for the students when they're receiving the materials and they're done in different ways. And I mean, whenever they have something, they share it with our academic team. I mean, we are a small team as well, and then everybody is basically giving feedback, right? Because a lot of us who are not actually specialists in this area, we are taking on a role of a student, right? So basically, if I can follow the instructions, it probably means that the student is going to be able to follow the instructions too.
So you're fulfilling a quality assurance role as well as a coaching and supporting role?
Yes, right now, basically.
Okay, all right. And again, you're confident that your colleagues are feeling that they're appropriately supported and engaged in this process?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we are in touch on a daily basis right now, all of us. So also with our IT support. So we are trying to do what we can remotely.
Okay, all right. So that's excellent. Thank you. Jane, I'm just, excuse me, everybody. I'm just going to talk shop for half a second. Jane, the workshop, the webinar for the 16th of April is currently titled Alternative Approaches to Assessment and Examination Under COVID-19. If I may, can we just stick a bracket at the back end of that and call that assurance of learning? Because assessment and examination, particularly through some of the comments that I've been hearing tonight, are not just about the mechanics of assessment and examination, but also how do we go about assuring learning, particularly in the context of course level intended learning outcomes. So if I can trouble you for that, and our seminar for the 30th of April, supporting staff and colleagues through COVID-19, I think we also need to put something in there about professional, our original thinking for that was more about emotional support and collegiate support and looking after our colleagues. But there's also, as this part of the conversation highlighted, there is a huge chunk of work there around the professional development for our colleagues to get them into this online environment when they're having to learn that in an online environment. So if we can just finesse those 2 topics, that'll just give us a bit more clarity as we get our colleagues organised to for those seminars. Yeah. Okay, all right, thank you. And yes, that Nicoletta is an excellent example of collaborative learning and self-directed learning from your chef instructors, which is fabulous stuff.
Yeah. Paul, I was just also going to say, I think those are excellent suggestions to add those extra details to our upcoming webinars, because again, one of the comments of the reactions under the current crisis was for institutions to say to lecturers or academics, okay, well then put all your lectures online then. And they took their existing lectures and just put them online. We know that, I think through experience, that doesn't work. 2-hour lectures online simply doesn't work. But then you've got to support academics in well, how do I put it online? What does it look like? How do I shorten it? What do I leave out? What do I put in? As Clive said earlier, how do I maintain engagement with students? So I think that it's an excellent suggestion to come back in that session of sharing experience of how we support our academic teams to enter into this digital age.
Yeah, that whole PD thing. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. Jane, no further update on our poll respondents?
That was it, closed.
Okay, all right. I'm looking at the questions. I think we're pretty much covered all of the questions. Jane, have I missed anything, or have I got them all?
Have them all. You've answered them all.
Okay, all right. All right. Oh, we've got a quick note from Steve Hood. Thank you, Steve, about the Philippines data. That's good to hear. Certainly those countries for whom tourism, particularly international tourism, is a major component of their economy, is going to, the recovery is going to be critical, absolutely critical. So the more we can support our colleagues in those situations, the better.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
I thought that was, I thought those were private. I didn't realize
sorry.
all panelists were included. Forgive me. I was just, I'm preparing for a webinar later today, and I was looking at Asia data, and Philippines was standing out. Just FYI, occupancies in China, I'm looking at data from last week, are getting close to 40%, which obviously at any other time in the world would be tragic, but when 8 weeks ago you were below 10%, 40% is looking really good. So just a bright spot.
Steve, sorry, Paul, if I may.
Yeah, please, Steve.
Question for Steve. Do you have a breakdown of quarantine hotels versus non-quarantine hotels? Because
I
know like the Ridges and Travelodge in Australia, the sort of the hotels that people are being forced to stay in for for a couple of weeks while they self-isolate. So that would be quite I guess it's another structural thing that would artificially keep an occupancy rate different to sort of the market, I guess, as you mentioned. Similarly with if you include hotels closed down versus ones that haven't closed down. So I'd be just interested to know if you can somehow capture hotels that have been used for official quarantine hotels.
Yeah, that happened a whole lot in China. Let me check with our Beijing office, our Beijing office is back in operation now. So they're actually going back to the office, not every day of the week, but, periodic, 3 days out of the week as they're sort of rotating. But let me check with them on that quarantine issue, because in a lot of situations, the hotels were, basically had some sort of contract with the government, and then that's awkward because then their occupancy jumps to 100%, and so let me check on that and try to get you. I'll try to get you some information on that, Steve.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Steve.
that's a very distorted market. Very difficult to track all of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Look, I'm also just getting some commentary that some of our students, or some of the students of our member institutions, can't even leave their homes at the moment, and so even the idea of them going out to do some shopping for materials is not at all possible. So we're going to have to keep thinking about, well, what can we do for people who are completely locked in their homes, and I noticed that many of those are going to be locked in until May. In the state of Victoria, in Australia, our government is talking about stage 4 lockdown, which is you are locked in your house and you are not allowed to go out unless it's to the shop and it's the shortest distance and all that sort of stuff. So it's going to be a particularly challenging period to think about that, but we will try and bring that sort of extreme situation into our thinking, certainly when we do the alternative approaches to assessment and examination in our next not our next session, but the session after. Oh, no, that is our next session. Sorry, my mistake. Okay. Any other comments or questions? This is a real case at 81 minutes into our session. Any more for any more? Has anybody got any questions that that are burning, that haven't been addressed? Anybody wants to put something on the agenda for our next session that is of particular interest? Jane, am I hearing silence?
You're hearing silence. There's also a, let everyone know, there is a survey following this that you'll receive the link to automatically. So if you do have any suggestions or comments or feedback, please do put it in the survey, and we'll try and incorporate those into future webinars to really tailor them to what you need.
Terrific, thank you. And the other comment about the webinar is that participation in the live webinar is restricted to the ICE members only. We see this and the opportunity to ask questions and engage in the conversation as a member benefit. But we do record the webinar, and that is on our website, and that is accessible to all and sundry. We see that as an opportunity to just share our understanding. So if anybody wants to revisit this and have a listen to our presenters or some of the key questions and our respondents, you can do that. If you want to share it with your colleagues at work, then that's also quite doable now, that you can just download that from the website. And Jane, it'll be up there in a day or two's time or something like that.
It depends on how quickly the cloud allows me to download it. So I will be downloading it immediately. So as soon as it's available, I will make it available to everyone, and we'll announce it via email to everyone as well. So you know when the link is there, post some socials on it as well.
Okay. All right. So on that note, Jane, let me thank Nicoletta for her contribution. That was really, really valuable. Thank you to all of you who posed questions during the webinar. Those that voted in the poll, a special thank you to our presenters, Steve Hood, Peter Russell, Stephen Pratt and Clive Taylor, for your insights and your thoughts. But more than anything, thank you to all of you present for participating. And finally, special thanks to our colleagues at the ICE, Jane and Craig and Elise, for driving the mechanics of all this in the background. So on that note, this is a particular time of year for reflection for people of various religious faiths and those of no faith. So I invite you all to have a safe and reflective period over Easter or Passover, or over the 4-day weekend that some of us are about to have. But more than anything, please stay safe and keep well. And we'll see you next week with our next webinar. Thanks, everybody, and good night.